She's 85, he's 25. She has wealth, he has fire. But when secrets, desires, and betrayal collide, can love survive the storm? In a city where age is power and lust is danger, their marriage isn't just controversial, it's a ticking time bomb. Where are you watching from? Don't forget to like, comment your thoughts on this story, and subscribe for more. The sun was hot, and Lagos traffic was louder than usual. But today, everyone was talking about one thing: Mama Nneka's wedding. She was 85 years old, rich, and always private. People knew she owned half of Ikoyi. Some said she had built banks, others said she had enemies. Now she was marrying a young man named Jide. He was only 25, handsome with eyes that made women stare too long. People whispered, "He's in it for her money." But when Nneka and Jide kissed at the altar, cameras flashed. It was real. At least it looked real. Inside the big gold hall, the air was full of perfume, secrets, and shock. Nneka wore a white lace dress that didn't try to hide her age. She smiled like a queen. Jide looked proud, maybe too proud. He grabbed her waist and kissed her neck for the cameras. But behind that kiss, Nneka's fingers were stiff. She was shaking a little. Not from love, from something else. She saw a woman in the crowd, young, pretty, watching Jide, and smiling like she already knew what he tasted like. Later that night, Nneka sat on her bed in her mansion. Jide was in the bathroom. She looked at the wedding picture in her hand. "Don't be stupid," she whispered to herself. "You chose this." She put down the photo and turned off the light. But sleep didn't come. In the dark, she heard her new husband laugh. His phone buzzed. A woman's voice came from the speaker saying, "Hurry, I can't wait till morning." Nneka didn't move. Her eyes were wide open now. The marriage had just started, but the lies had already begun. At 2 a.m., Jide slid into bed beside her. His body was warm. Nneka felt it, but didn't say a word. He kissed her shoulder gently. "You didn't sleep?" he asked. No. He didn't ask why. They lay in silence for a long time. The air between them was full of unsaid things. Jide's phone buzzed again. He turned it off this time, but it was too late. Nneka's mind had already traveled far. In the morning, Jide woke up alone. Nneka was in her home gym, walking slowly on the treadmill. Her personal assistant, Bisi, stood nearby with a tablet. She looked worried. "Madam," Bisi whispered, "people are talking. They say Jide has been seen with girls. Young girls." Nneka kept walking. "Let them talk. I don't care about gossip. I care about proof." Later that day, Nneka had lunch with her lawyer. He was old like her, trustworthy. "You need to protect your assets," he said carefully. "I already did," she replied. "Jide signed a prenup." "Good. Then let him play. He won't win." But Nneka wasn't sure if she wanted to fight or if she wanted to love. That was the real danger. She looked out the window and saw Jide swimming in their pool. His chest glistened in the sun. He looked like a god. That night Jide came home late. "You said you'd be back for dinner," she said. He laughed. "You're not my mom. You're my husband." He stepped closer, his breath full of alcohol. "Then treat me like one." Nneka slapped him. He stared at her, not with anger, with excitement. "You like games," he whispered. "Good. So do I." Then he walked out. She stood alone, shaking. Outside, a car door closed. A girl's laugh rang through the gate, and somewhere inside her heart, a cold voice whispered, "This man will burn your whole life if you let him." 3 days passed without a word. Jide didn't sleep in their room. He didn't even come home one night. Nneka said nothing, but her silence was not peace. It was a storm waiting. One morning, she walked into the kitchen to find a strange young woman wearing one of her silk robes. The girl was barefoot, holding a glass of orange juice like she owned the place. "Good morning, Ma." The girl smiled, too casually. Neka stared. Her voice was calm but sharp like a blade. "Who are you?" "I'm Mimi," the girl said. "Jide said I could stay the weekend." Neka didn't blink. "Did Jide also say you could wear my clothes?" Mimi smiled again, slower this time. "He said you wouldn't mind." That was the first time Neka felt something snap inside her. She walked upstairs, opened her safe, and pulled out a silver key. Her lawyer had told her, "If the marriage ever feels like a mistake, use this." She hadn't wanted to, but now she needed to know everything. The bank boxes, the cameras, the phone records. That afternoon, she called Bisi. "Get me the full report on Jide, all his movements, his calls, his spending, everything. I want names, I want faces." Bisi nodded, eyes wide. "Are we going to confront him?" "No," Neka said. "We're going to control him." But deep inside, she wasn't sure if she was the master or already the prisoner. That evening, Jide returned. He acted like nothing happened. "You have a guest," Neka said quietly. He laughed. "Mimi, she's just a friend." "She's not your wife," Neka said. Jide walked up to her, slow and mocking. "You don't look like a wife." She slapped him again. This time he didn't smile. He grabbed her wrist. His hand was tight. Too tight. "Careful," he said. "You may be old, but I'm not weak." She pulled away. Her heart beat fast, but not from fear, from fury. In her mind, something shifted. This wasn't marriage. This was war. The next day, Neka went to a private office in Victoria Island. She met with a man no one knew she still worked with, Chuka, her old security consultant. He wore a red tie and didn't ask questions. "I need full surveillance on Jide and anyone close to him." Chuka nodded. "Any threats?" "Not yet," she said. "But I feel them coming." Meanwhile, Jide was across the city in a nightclub in Lekki. He was with Mimi and another girl. He drank like a man on fire. People whispered about the wedding again. A man like Jide didn't belong to one woman, especially not one with gray hair. Back at the mansion, Neka watched the cameras. Jide had installed them himself when he moved in. He said it was for safety. But now she used them to watch him. She saw him sneaking money out of the house. She saw him calling a man in the middle of the night, a man Neka remembered from years ago. Tunde, the one who once tried to blackmail her company. That man had almost destroyed her in the past. Now he was talking to her husband. Neka felt the walls close in. Why was Jide speaking to her old enemy? Why did he know where to find him? She picked up her phone and dialed Chuka again. Find out what Jide wants and what Tunde is offering. Meanwhile, Jide kissed Mimi goodbye and told her, "The old woman will die soon, and then everything will be mine." Mimi laughed, but something in her eyes said she was not fully on his side. Back at the mansion, Neka stood alone by the window. Outside, the sky turned dark. Thunder rolled over Lagos. She whispered to herself, "He thinks I'm old. He thinks I'm slow. He doesn't know what I've survived." And just like that, the real game began. Mimi sat in her own apartment that night, staring at her phone. A new message had just come in from a number saved as "Unknown Boss, Unknown Boss." "Get close to him, closer than ever. We need everything he knows." Mimi sighed and closed her eyes. This wasn't just about sleeping with a married man. This was a mission. She hadn't told Jide who she really worked for. She wasn't just a girl looking for luxury. She was working for someone powerful, someone who hated Neka deeply. In the mansion, Neka's phone rang. "Madam," Bisi whispered, "Mimi has links to your late husband's former enemy. She's been paid to get information on your assets. They want to know how much Jide is entitled to if you die." Neka's heart raced. Suddenly it made sense. Mimi wasn't just a foolish side chick. She was planted, and Jide was either part of it or too blinded by lust to see it. Neka called Chuka. "Change of plan," she said. "Mimi isn't just bait, she's the knife." That evening, Neka told Jide, "Invite Mimi for dinner." Jide raised an eyebrow. "You want to meet her?" "I want to understand the kind of women my husband is risking his life for." Jide smirked. "You're jealous." "No," she replied. "I'm interested." Mimi arrived wearing a red dress too tight for comfort. The table was set for 3. The mansion smelled of grilled catfish, plantain, and something darker. Tension. Neka poured wine for everyone. "Tell me, Mimi, what do you do?" "I model," she smiled, "and I travel." "For work or for pleasure?" "Both," Mimi said, sipping slowly. Neka leaned in. "And do you ever work with men like Tunde?" Mimi choked slightly, then laughed. "I don't know who that is." "Of course," Neka said. "You wouldn't lie at my table, would you?" Jide frowned. "What is this? An interrogation?" "No," Neka said. "This is me learning what kind of poison I've invited into my house." Mimi stood up. "I think I should go." "You should," Neka said, staring straight into her eyes. After she left, Jide snapped. "You embarrassed her." "No," Neka said. "I exposed her." Jide turned, furious. "Why are you acting like this? You said we were in this together." Neka walked over slowly. "I married you because I was lonely. But you've turned this marriage into a war. And in war, I don't lose." Jide laughed. "Old woman, you've already lost. You don't even know what's coming." She raised an eyebrow. "Then surprise me." He stormed out again. Neka sat down, eyes still sharp, and whispered, "He thinks the fire is around him. He doesn't. No, it's already under his feet." 2 days later, Jide disappeared. No calls, no texts, no lies, nothing. At first, Neka didn't worry. Maybe he was trying to scare her. Maybe it was a childish game. But by the second night, she felt something strange. The house felt empty. Not peaceful, not quiet, wrong. By morning, Bissy ran into Neka's room, phone shaking in her hand. "Madam, look." A video had been posted online. It showed Jide tied to a chair, his face bruised, blood on his shirt. A voice off camera said, "Tell her what we want, or you won't leave here alive." Jide's mouth trembled. "Tell her to transfer everything, every share, every property, or you'll never see me again." The screen went black. Bissy gasped. "Should I call the police?" "No," Neka said coldly. "They won't help me." She stood up and picked up her phone. "Chuka," she said, "we have a problem. And I think I know who's behind it." Because Neka recognized the man's voice in the video. It was Tunde. The old ghost had returned. Neka didn't cry. She didn't panic. Instead, she went to a locked room in her mansion that no one had entered in years. It was her late husband's old study. Behind a dusty bookcase was a small metal box. Inside it was the real will, the one she had never shown anyone, the one her husband left with instructions. "Only reveal this if the vultures come for what's mine." She opened it and read the papers again. According to this hidden will, Jide would never inherit a kobo. In fact, any spouse under the age of 40 would be automatically cut out of the inheritance. The public documents said otherwise. They were a show, a trick for enemies. Neka smiled. They had all made a mistake. Jide, Mimi, Tunde. They thought she was the prize. But the truth was, they had been playing a game that was rigged from the start. Still, Jide's kidnapping was real. She couldn't let him die. Not because she loved him, that feeling was gone, but because she needed him alive to drag the rest into the light. She went to Chuka's compound in Ikeja. It looked Like an old warehouse, but inside was a war room. Chuka pointed at a map. We traced the video signal. It's coming from Badagry. Neka didn't flinch. Then we go to Badagry. Madam, he warned, this is dangerous. I've faced more danger than this in my 20s, she said. And I'm still here. Meanwhile, in a dirty room in Badagry, Jide sat bleeding, tied to a chair. Tunde walked in, holding a cigar. You really thought she would save you? He laughed. That old woman doesn't even know you planned this with me from the start. Jide's eyes dropped. Tunde leaned close. You were supposed to seduce her, drain her, break her. You promised she'd be weak. But Jide didn't answer. Because deep down, he knew something had changed. The woman he married wasn't just still strong, she was smarter than both of them. Back in the city, Neka stood in front of a mirror, putting on a bulletproof vest. She looked at her reflection and said, if they want war, I'll give them war. But they forgot one thing. I already survived hell before they were even born. Night fell hard on Badagry. A black SUV moved slowly down a quiet road near the waterfront. Inside it sat Neka, Chuka, and 2 armed men. No police, no drama, just precision. Chuka looked over at her. We only have one shot. You sure you want to come in with us? Neka stared through the glass. That boy signed my name to death. I'll be there to watch him beg for life. Meanwhile, in the warehouse, Jide was coughing blood. Tunde stood in front of him, counting down. 3 hours left, Tunde said. If she doesn't send the money, we end this. But just before he could speak again, the lights went off. Everything turned to darkness. Then, boom, the side door exploded open. Smoke flooded the room. Gunshots, screams. Chuka's men moved fast, shouting commands. Aneka stood outside the warehouse holding a tablet, watching it all through a drone feed. Then she saw something that made her freeze. Mimi, she was inside, with a gun, aiming it, not at Jide, but at Tunde. Bang! Tunde collapsed. Blood poured from his chest. Chaos, Jide screamed, Mimi! But she didn't answer. She dropped the gun, stared at Jide with something like pity, then ran. By the time Chuka reached Jide, the boy was barely conscious. We got him, Chuka called out. He's alive. Neka didn't smile. She didn't move. In her eyes, everything had changed. They brought Jide back to Lagos and laid him on a hospital bed in one of Neka's private clinics. His face was swollen. His pride was gone. When he opened his eyes, she was sitting there, dressed in all black, calm, silent. You came, he whispered. I did. I didn't know. Tunde would go that far. I just wanted to scare you. She didn't blink. You lied to me. You let them plan this. You let Mimi into my home. She wasn't supposed to shoot anyone, he said weakly. We? Neka's voice turned cold. There is no we anymore. Jide sat up slowly, pain in his chest. You still love me. I know you do. Love? She said, standing. What I feel now isn't love. It's clarity. Then she dropped a manila envelope on his lap. It was full of photos, voice recordings, call logs, bank transfers. She smiled. I've been building a case since week 2 of this marriage. You're finished. He flipped through the pages, his hands shaking. I don't want your money, he said. I just wanted, she leaned in. You wanted power, but you don't know what real power looks like. He looked up at her, desperate. Then, why save me? She walked to the door and turned. Because I want you alive when I destroy everything you thought you could take from me. He was silent. Then, softly, he said, You were never the victim. Were you? She smiled. I never had to be. As she left the hospital, she made a call to Chuka. Mimi didn't run, she said. She walked away like a woman with a plan. Find her. And far away, In a luxury hotel in Abuja, Mimi was on the phone. "She's smarter than I thought," Mimi whispered. "But don't worry. Plan B is already in motion." The voice on the other end replied, "Good. Let's make the old lioness bleed for real this time." A knock came on Neka's door at 3:00 a.m. Chuka stood there, wet from rain, holding a laptop. "We found her," he said. "She's not who we thought." They sat together in the study, staring at the screen. A slideshow played, picture after picture of Mimi, real name, Amarachi Ojukwu, born in Enugu, degree in economics, fluent in French, no criminal record. Until 2 years ago. That's when she disappeared off the grid. "She was recruited," Chuka said, "by someone we don't know yet, but she's been in deep operations before. Asset smuggling, corporate seduction, money laundering." Neka blinked. "She's a spy?" "More like an economic hitwoman," Chuka said. "Your marriage was just a step in a bigger plan." Neka's lips tightened. "And Jide was the bait. But not the hunter," Chuka added. "He was being used too." Back in Abuja, Mimi sat in a penthouse suite with a man whose face we don't see yet. He was older, sharp-suited, calm. "She's starting to smell the truth," Mimi said. "She always was a fighter," the man replied. "But fighters break. Everyone breaks." Mimi turned to him. "What's the next move?" He smiled. "Let her destroy Jide publicly. Then, when she thinks she's won, we strike." The next day, Lagos woke up to a social media bomb. A video of Jide, shirtless and handcuffed, screaming at Tunde. "This wasn't the deal. I said don't hurt her. You said we'd just scare her." The video went viral. Neka's enemies twisted it quickly. Bloggers posted headlines like, "Rich grandma tortures young husband for inheritance." 85-year-old tycoon exposes marriage for power grab. Free Jide trends across Nigeria. The internet turned. People didn't see the truth. They saw drama, and they chose sides. Most sided with the younger man. They said Neka was bitter, controlling, even dangerous. Neka's phone rang non-stop. Clients were pulling deals. A construction permit was suddenly under review. Journalists camped outside her gates. Chuka barged in. "This is a smear campaign, full scale. Someone planned this months ago." Neka stared at the screen. Jide's face, crying, acting, or maybe not acting. "Get me him," she said. That night, Chuka brought Jide to a warehouse in Lekki. It was empty, cold. Neka stood inside, arms crossed. Jide limped in. He looked smaller now, hollow. "You ruined me," Neka said. "I was lost," Jide replied. "Tunde used me, Mimi used me, but I didn't want you hurt." She walked closer. "Do you want to fix this?" "I'll do anything." "Good," she said. "You're going to confess, publicly, on camera, every single thing." He paused. "And if I don't," she smiled faintly, "then I'll press charges, fraud, conspiracy. You'll rot in a real prison." He nodded. Slowly. "But you should know something," Jade whispered. "What?" "Mimi's not done. You think she's working alone?" He shook his head. "You're not the only one with a past, Neka. There are people behind her who hate you more than I ever could." Neka stared at him for a long time. Then she said something only Chuka heard. "If ghosts from my past are coming, I'll bury them with my own hands." Back in Abuja, Mimi poured a drink and sat across from him, the man who'd been silent all along, the one behind everything. He finally stepped into the light. His name, Chief Ken Oshonjo, Old Lagos Money, former oil baron. Once a friend of Neka's, late husband. Now, an enemy sharpened by betrayal. "She took everything from me," he said, sipping whiskey. "Your job was to deliver her to me. Broken." "And I almost did," Mimi said. "But she's harder than you said. She doesn't trust, doesn't fall, doesn't beg. She will, Chief Ken said. Her empire's crumbling already. Next, we make it personal. He handed her a thin black folder. Inside that is the file of Project O. If the media gets that. Mimi's eyes widened. She buried this. Exactly, he said. Now, we dig it up. The next day, Neka stood on the balcony of her home. Her lawyer was on the phone. Bad news, he said. A story is about to drop. A big one. What story? Something called Project O, from 25 years ago. Back when your husband was alive. It's tied to a land grab in Benue State. Some people died. Neka's face turned pale. I told him to bury that, she whispered. We paid. We silenced the families. The papers were burned. Not all of them. Neka hung up and turned to Chuka. Call everyone. We're on lockdown now. I want the press. Shut out. And find out how this resurfaced. But it was too late. That evening, the headline hit. Neka Okoye's bloody past. How the 85-year-old tycoon built her fortune on stolen graves, pictures, documents, testimonies, leaked, and Neka's name trended across every platform. People she'd done business with turned, sponsors ran, one senator publicly cut ties. There were calls for investigation. Her staff began to quit. Half her security detail didn't show up. BC came in crying. Madame, they're calling for your arrest. The Anti-Corruption Bureau is opening a case. Neka sat very still. This wasn't just scandal. This was execution. Where's Jide? She asked. Hiding, Chuka said. But he's scared. Good, Neka said, because I'm not. But even as she said it, she felt something heavy in her chest. She walked to the mirror again. The same mirror she'd looked into the night before her wedding. This time, she whispered something different. This time, I may have gone too far. The morning after the Project O scandal broke, Jide sat in a private studio deep in Ikeja. He hadn't slept. His face looked raw, tired, but determined. In front of him, a live camera feed. The producer leaned in. You sure you want to do this? Jide nodded. It's time I said my truth. The red light blinked. The stream went live. Good morning, Nigeria, Jide said, voice low, shaking slightly. My name is Jide Okoye. I am the 25-year-old husband of Neka Okoye. Thousands joined the stream instantly. Blogs embedded it. TV stations began airing it within minutes. What I'm about to say may shock you. He paused. Yes, I was recruited by Tunde to seduce her. Yes, I was part of a plan. I was greedy. I thought I could marry her, earn her trust, and take her. Money. I was wrong. He looked directly at the camera, but I also saw something none of you see. I saw what she survived. I saw the people she beat. I saw the truth about her past, and I saw what this country does to powerful women who refuse to shrink. He pulled out a folder. This, he said, holding it up, is my confession. Not just about what I did, but about what they're still doing. The people who sent Mimi. The people who leaked Project O. The comment section exploded. Jide leaned closer. They don't care about justice. They care about revenge, and I'm done being a puppet. This is my last lie. He ended the stream. Mimi watched the live stream in disbelief. From her hotel in Abuja, she threw her phone across the room. He was supposed to go down with her, she yelled. Chief Ken stood quietly, sipping tea. He's panicking, Ken said. That wasn't strategy. That was fear. But now people are asking who I am, she snapped. They're digging. And if they trace the money trail, they won't, Ken said. You'll disappear, like always. Mimi sat down, shaking. For the first time since the mission began, she looked scared. Not just of being caught, but of what she had become, of what she had helped build. Because somewhere in the middle of it all, the lies, the sex, the seduction, she had started to admire Neka, maybe even fear her. And now, with Jide breaking the code, things had changed. Later that night, she received an email. No sender, no subject, just a single attachment. She opened it. It was a video. In it, Chief Ken was speaking with her, recorded secretly. "You'll bring her to her knees, Amarachi," he said. "And if you fail, we bury you with her." She froze. Someone had filmed them. She checked the file details. It came from Lagos, from Neka's server. Suddenly, it hit her. The old woman had been watching them the entire time. Cameras flashed, like lightning outside the EFCC headquarters in Ikoyi. Neka Okoye walked through the chaos. Head held high, wearing a black iro and buba with no jewelry. Her face was bare, no makeup, no pretense, just truth. People screamed her name from both sides of the street. Some chanted, "Lock her up." Others whispered, "She's a legend." Reporters pushed microphones toward her face. "Neka, are the charges true? Did your husband set you up? What happened in Benue, madam?" She said only one thing before entering the gate. "I'm not here to defend my name. I'm here to tell the truth." Inside, the air was cold. Her lawyer waited with tired eyes. "You shouldn't have come," he whispered. "I had to," she said. The truth only matters when you speak it before someone else writes it for you. Later that day, she sat before a tribunal panel. Cameras rolling, everyone watching. Her enemies, her friends, her country. "I have been many things," she said. "A wife, a businesswoman, a survivor. I've made hard choices, some good, some dark." She looked straight at the lead investigator. Yes, Project O existed. Yes, land was taken. Yes, lives were destroyed. I was there. I let it happen. I justified it. Gasps filled the room. I buried that chapter. But I see now that hiding it didn't make it go away. Tears slid down her cheek, one of the only times the country had ever seen Neka Okoye cry. I built an empire on the edge of justice, and now I must pay the price. The room went silent. Then came applause, from the back, just one person. Then a few more, then others, and outside, for the first time in weeks, the chants changed. "Neka the brave, Neka the brave." That same night, in a private holding room, Neka and Mimi met. No cameras, no guards. Just two women, mirrors of each other across time. "You wanted to break me," Neka said calmly. "I didn't expect you to walk in here like a soldier," Mimi replied. Neka studied her. "You remind me of me, the version I had to kill too." "Survive? You think I'm weak?" Mimi asked. "No," Neka said. "I think you're lost." There was a long pause. Then Mimi placed a small flash drive on the table. "What's that?" Neka asked. "Insurance," Mimi said. "All of Chief Ken's dealings, emails, recordings, bank accounts. He never thought I'd betray him. Why are you giving it to me?" "Because I'm tired," Mimi said. "And because maybe, just maybe, you're the only woman who can take him down the right way." Neka's lips twitched. "Why should I trust you?" "You shouldn't," Mimi said, standing. "But I'm tired of being a weapon for men who think we're disposable." She walked to the door, turned and said softly, "I never hated you, Neka. I envied you." Then she was gone, and Neka was left staring at the tiny drive that could destroy or save everything. Outside the room, Chuka waited. "What now?" he asked. She tucked the drive into her blouse and whispered, "Now, we burn the puppet master." The nation was still spinning from Neka's confession. Every talk show debated her legacy. Was she a villain who finally cracked, or a leader who had to sin to build? Meanwhile, inside her private legal quarters, guarded, soundproof, hidden inside a hospital basement, Neka moved like a woman, with time against her, but purpose in her blood. Chuka stood by as she slipped the flash drive Mimi had given her into a steel-cased laptop. As it loaded, names popped up, bank accounts, offshore payments, a long chain of files titled Ken docs classified. One folder hit harder than the rest. Project Thorn. Lagos politicians bought to destroy Neka's estate. Holdings. Neka's heart thudded. Chief Ken hadn't just wanted revenge. He wanted control of her assets. He had lined up fake protest groups. False legal claims and bribed officials, all meant to pressure her into selling at reduced value before public scandal forced her out. He had orchestrated everything, even Jade's seduction. "Send it out," Neka said. "To who?" Chuka asked. "Everyone," she replied. "The press, the police, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Leak it. Leak all of it. But once it's out there, you can't hide again," Chuka warned. Neka stood, her voice strong. "I'm not hiding anymore. This ends on my terms." By evening, the files had gone viral. Screenshots of private emails between Chief Ken and political fixers flooded Twitter. Audio clips of him laughing about old Neka's fall were aired on Channels TV, and then came the final blow, a voice memo of Chief Ken saying, "Once she's gone, Lagos is mine. The rest is cleanup." Suddenly, the court of public opinion flipped. In a marble suite in Abuja, Chief Ken paced the room, his hands shaking as he flipped through news articles. Chief Ken, accused of coordinating fake scandals. Neka Okoye, not the villain? Hidden empire. How oil tycoons control the courts. He smashed a glass on the floor. Mimi watched from the corner of the room, arms folded, calm now. "You used me," she said. "Just like you used everyone else." Ken turned to her. "You ungrateful little—" But before he could finish, his front door burst open. EFCC agents, guns drawn, suits tight, faces unreadable. "Chief Kenneth Ochanjo, you are under arrest for corruption, conspiracy, and attempted blackmail of a federal witness." Ken stepped back. Who gave you—" The lead agent held up a paper. "We received a full statement and evidence from Mrs. Neka Okoye, and a signed affidavit from Amarachi Ojukwu." Mimi turned away from him, didn't look back. Ken screamed as they cuffed him, dragged him out of the room like trash. That night, on every news station, there was only one story. Chief Ken falls, Neka rises. But Neka didn't celebrate. She stood by a window in her home, alone. BC came in gently. "Madam, people are asking if you'll sue him." "No," she said softly. "Let the law do what it never did for me." She looked out into the Lagos night and whispered, "Now I can breathe." But even as she said that, a small voice inside her asked, "What do you do when revenge is complete, but love is still broken?" Because Jide hadn't spoken since his confession, and in her chest, something unexpected still burned. 3 weeks passed. Chief Ken was in prison, denied bail. His empire began collapsing like cheap scaffolding. Mimi vanished from the public eye, rumored to have relocated to Ghana. But Neka didn't celebrate. She walked the quiet halls of her estate in Ikoyi with a heaviness no victory could lift. Justice had been served. Enemies had fallen. But the silence in her home, that was the part that hurt. One morning, she entered her late husband's old study. The air still smelled like him, citrus, dust, and the faint scent of worn leather. She sat at his desk and opened a drawer. Inside was a dusty envelope. She had never noticed it before. It had her name on it, written in his thick, stubborn handwriting. "If you're reading this, you've won a war I couldn't." She opened it slowly. It wasn't long, just a few lines. "You were always stronger than me. I played too safe, made deals to survive. But you became fire. Never forget who you were before the world told you who to be. I hope when this ends, you still remember your own heart. Obina." She wept quietly for the first time in years, not because of the past, but because she had no one left to read this letter to. It was almost midnight when Neka heard a knock at the door. Not the main gate, the side door, near the servants' quarters. Only one person used that door anymore. She opened it. Jide stood there, tired, broken. A man who looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 months. "Can I come in?" he asked. She didn't speak, just stepped aside. They sat in the living room. The silence was thick. "I've been staying with my cousin," he said. "No one will hire me. Everyone looks at me like I'm poison." "You made yourself poison," she said. Calmly, truthfully, he nodded. "I don't want money," he said. "I don't want pity. I just want to apologize." Neka didn't blink. "Not to save myself," Jide said. "Just to face what I did." He reached into his coat and pulled out a notebook. "I've written everything. What I did. What Tunde did. Even what Mimi told me when she was starting to doubt it all. I want you to have it." He placed it on the coffee table. "I was selfish. I wanted your power, your name. But I never knew how alone you were until I lost everything too." She stared at him. Her voice was steady. "You wanted my power, Jide, but you couldn't carry my silence." He looked away. "I know," he whispered. "But I carried something else I never told you." "What?" He stood slowly, his eyes glassy. "I fell in love with you. After the lies, after the plans, I still did." She scoffed lightly. "You don't know what love is." "I didn't," he admitted, "but I think I do now." He turned to leave. At the door, he paused. "If you never want to see me again, I understand. But if one day you just want to talk to someone who has nothing to gain from you, I'll answer." He walked into the darkness. Neka stood still. The only sound in the room was the slow tick of the old wall clock. She looked down at the notebook he left. Her hand hovered over it, and finally, she picked it up. The invitation came in a crisp envelope with a silver seal, Live National Forum, the two queens, power, love, and betrayal in Nigeria's most controversial marriage. Guest, Neka Okoye. Guest, Amarachi Mimi Ojukwu. Host, Zara Oduro. Prime TV BC handed it to Neka with nervous eyes. "This could be a setup," she warned. "I know," Neka said, folding the letter carefully. "That's why I'm going." Chuka frowned. "You owe that girl nothing." "No," Neka replied. "But the country's watching, and before I disappear from their mouths forever, they'll see who I really am." The show aired that Sunday. Millions tuned in. The studio was cold, clean, minimalist, but dripping with tension. Mimi walked in first, dressed in simple Ankara, no makeup, hair tied back. She looked smaller now. Human. Neka entered second. In bold purple, with silver pins in her braid. Regal, unapologetic. Zara Oduro welcomed the crowd and began. The first few questions were expected. Background, scandal, betrayal. But then came the live caller segment. A woman's voice rang through the studio. "I'm not calling to attack or defend. I just want to ask Madam Neka something. You said you built everything yourself. But how many people were broken so you could rise?" The studio went still. Neka didn't rush. She looked at Mimi, then at Zara, then finally straight into the camera. "Many," she said softly. "Too many." Gasps. She continued. "I was taught that survival meant sacrifice. That power meant silence. But yes, there were lives I stepped over, and I carry them every time I close my eyes." She turned to Mimi. "You were one of them. So was Jeed. Even my husband, in a way." Mimi looked shocked. "I won't pretend. I was just a victim of ambition. I was the architect of it. But now, I'm ready to build something that can't be bought." The host leaned in. "And what would that be?" Neka smiled, for the first time that night. "Redemption. In a small, quiet newsroom in Yaba, Zainab, a 26-year-old junior reporter, watched the forum replay with wide eyes. She wasn't like the other journalists. She didn't want gossip. She wanted truth. Zainab had followed Neka's story from the high beginning, not for headlines but for meaning. She pulled out her research file. Dozens of notes, timelines, old newsprint. But something had been bothering her for weeks, a detail no one had noticed. In the Project O report, there was a name mentioned just once. Land disputes were facilitated through proxy corporations, primarily one listed as Skyline 9 Limited. Zainab traced the registration, not under Neka, under her late husband, and when she ran the payment records, she gasped. Most of the bribes linked to Project O had been sent after his death, through a secondary account still active. She made one call, then another. What she found flipped the whole story. Neka didn't hide Project O. She didn't even know how deep it went. Someone had kept it running in the shadows, after her husband's death, using her name, her fear, and her silence. Zainab whispered to herself. She thought she was guilty. But she's been a shield all this time. She stood up, grabbed her laptop, and said to her editor, "I'm going to give Neka Okoye her real story. Not a scandal. The truth." Zainab's article dropped at 6:47 a.m. It wasn't dramatic. No red headlines. Just a title that read, "The Woman Who Didn't Know. How Neka Okoye Became a Shield for Her Husband's Secret Empire." Within hours, the story was trending across Nigeria. It had everything. Paper trails proving her late husband secretly extended Project O after his retirement. Shell companies run by ex-associates using her name without permission. Evidence that Chief Ken helped cover up the extension, not Neka. The public exploded. But this time, not in rage, in shock. TV panels called it the greatest misjudgment in modern Nigerian media. Celebrities who had cancelled Neka days earlier began to post apologies. A major politician tweeted, "We crucified a woman who was carrying guilt that didn't belong to her." At the estate, Bissy ran into Neka's study with a tablet. "Madam, look." Neka scrolled through the story slowly. Her fingers didn't shake. Her breath didn't change. Only her eyes welled up. Then she said softly, "He lied even in death." She walked out into her garden barefoot, letting the wet grass cool her feet. It had rained early that morning. Like the earth knew something was being washed clean. Chuka came out behind her. "You've been redeemed," he said. "No," she replied. "I've been released." That night, as she returned to her bedroom, a plain envelope sat on her pillow. No stamp, no delivery mark. Inside, a single handwritten letter from Jide. "Neka, I won't pretend this letter can undo what I did. I've spent every day replaying my betrayal. But after watching your interview and reading the truth in Zainab's article, I realized something I never faced. You were never my enemy. I was my own. I came into your life to use you, but you ended up giving me something I never had. Structure. Fire. Reflection. You showed me my weakness and still didn't destroy me when you had the chance. This morning, I left Lagos. I'm moving to a town you'll never visit. Starting over, far from the noise. I don't deserve you, but I hope one day I deserve your memory. If you ever wonder whether I loved you, know that I still do, and I always will. Jide." She read it 3 times, folded it, placed it inside the drawer with her husband's old note, and whispered, "Let the past stay buried." That night, she didn't cry. She slept, peacefully, for the first time in 25 years. A week after Zainab's article broke, the young journalist stood at the gates of Neka's estate. She came with no cameras, no press. Just a leather notebook and a voice recorder. The guards let her in, wordlessly, respectfully. Neka waited on the balcony, dressed in soft grey, the color of storms that have passed. "You wrote me clean," Neka said as Zainab approached. I wrote the truth, Zainab replied. No one ever has, Neka said. They either worshipped me or crucified me. You did neither. You saw me. They sat beneath the garden canopy, the breeze cutting gently through the hibiscus flowers. Want to write a book, Zainab said finally. Your full story, from beginning to now. Everything. No spin, just the scars, the wins, the sins, and the silence. Neka didn't respond immediately. You'll lose readers, she said at last. They want saints or devils, not people. Zainab smiled. Then let them meet a person for once. Neka looked out toward the horizon and asked softly, if I say yes, do I get to choose how it ends? Zainab replied, no, Mama, but you get to choose where it begins. That evening, as dusk bled into the Lagos skyline, a knock came at Neka's door again. But this one was expected. She opened it herself. Mimi, dressed in yellow, bright, defiant, unapologetically alive. You're braver than I thought, Neka said. And you're softer than I believed, Mimi replied. They sat, not in the house, but under the tree in the back where Neka used to sit with her husband in the early days of their marriage. You know they still talk about us, Mimi said. The young snake and the old queen were a full myth now. Let them talk, Neka said. Talking never built anything. Mimi reached into her bag and handed over a folded piece of paper. This is my last gift. It's from someone you haven't seen in decades, someone you hurt. She asked me to give this to you if I ever found peace in your presence. Neka unfolded it slowly. The name at the bottom made her chest tighten. Adais, her daughter, the one she lost to the fallout of her first scandal, the one who swore never to speak to her again. The letter was short. Mummy, I watched your interview. I read the truth. And I cried. Not for your sins, but for all the years I thought you chose power over love. I see now that you tried to hold both and got crushed between them. I'm not ready yet, but I'm not gone. Your daughter, still. Neka folded the letter with trembling hands, and for the first time in front of Mimi, her former enemy, she let the tears fall. They sat in silence. No longer rivals, just two women, survivors of different storms. The book had taken 5 months. Zainab worked from recordings, interviews, court records, and personal moments shared in secret. Neka was involved every step of the way, not to control the story, but to witness it one more time. The final chapter was written in a quiet room, over black coffee, with the sound of distant waves through an open window. I've finished, Zainab said softly. Neka looked up from her chair. Title? She asked. Zainab smiled. The Last Bride, Neka chuckled. So dramatic. It fits, Zainab said, because the wedding was just the bait. The real story was about everything after. A few days later, they held a private launch. No big media house, no photographers. Just a simple bookstore in Victoria Island. The audience was small. Young women in publishing, a few retired journalists, 2 human rights lawyers, and a girl who said her mother taught her to be fearless because of Madame Neka. Zainab stood at the podium and read an excerpt. She wasn't good. She wasn't evil. She was simply a woman who refused to be small. And in refusing to shrink, she sometimes crushed things she meant to protect. The room was silent, then full of soft clapping, some tears. No shouting. Neka didn't speak that night. She just nodded at Zainab and slipped away quietly before the final toast. Outside, Chuka waited by the car. You okay? He asked. Neka leaned against the vehicle and looked up at the stars. No, she said, but I'm finished. And sometimes, that's enough. 6 months later. The estate was quiet again. Fewer guards, no press, just plants. Neka had hired a young horticulturist to redesign the garden. The girl reminded her of Mimi, except with more kindness in her eyes. Jide had written one more letter, but not visited. He was teaching now, poetry oddly enough. Somewhere in Hostrant, Mimi had launched a small NGO to help women escape abusive elite men, and she never asked Neka for help, but Neka donated quietly under a false name. Zainab's book won awards. She turned down the movie rights, and Neka, she lived simply. She never remarried, never hosted another gala, never gave another interview. But one Sunday morning, something changed. She opened her gate and found a young woman standing there, early 30s, tall, with her father's eyes. "Ades, can I come in?" she asked. Neka opened the gate wider. "I've been waiting since the day you left." They didn't hug. They just sat, under the old tree where Neka had once planned empires, then lost them, then rebuilt her soul. The camera doesn't follow them inside. There's no speech, no drama, just two chairs, a mother, a daughter, a beginning. And in the corner of the garden, a flower bloomed from a crack in the stone path.